Yep.
I don't know. I'd like to see us, naturally gravitate towards that, but it seems like they're really pushing it.
Yeah, they're pushing pretty hard.
Yeah, I still haven't read your post on the Ford rules. For that one, Joe.
Yeah, that was a article from CBT. I just sort of copy and pasted it and give it a quick read. Seemed pretty relevant.
Hey, on the
Yeah.
type of automobile dealership, National Association of Minority Automobile Dealers.
Yeah, isn't Ford like only given, I guess they're getting, well, yeah, they got six weeks to accept new rules to sell EVs. Yeah, we'll get into that.
A lot of folks got to make a lot of business decisions fairly quickly, and
We had to here at Mercedes-Benz. I mean, it was mandatory. We had to have a charger installed, which we had done years ago, but then we needed to get some new, updated charger installed.
yeah,
And then we had to go from one to, I think, three.
yep,
And they weren't, yeah, they're no joke. They're not cheap.
they ain't cheap. Are you an air, land, or sea store? Your
I don't know.
what do you call them? Your regional people that come in. Yeah,
Uh,
so
Land, I guess.
yeah, now they break them down by volume and size.
Oh,
Your regional directors are land, air, and sea. But yeah,
I
those
didn't.
charging stations are no joke, man. They're expensive, very expensive.
Very, yeah. Well, and two, I think Alex and I were just talking about this. Once, like, we're sort of fortunate in this area because even out here in Hagerstown, we've got quite a few charging stations. I know the Outlets is a big charging station, and of course, we're right at the hub of 81 and 70. So, you can buy an electric car around here and not really have any issues. I mean, my wife's got a hybrid. She plugs it into the thing at the house, no issues. Of course, that's a lot different than full EV. But once you start getting out of this area, I drove to Kentucky last summer, and I was trying to just keep an eye. I mean, from here to Kentucky, I only counted a handful.
Yeah.
We drove from Vermont down to Virginia Beach, and in Vermont, in Burlington, there's plenty of places to charge. Actually, most of it's Tesla stuff. So if you don't have a Tesla, it might be different. But hold on, 3 seconds. We're going live here. We can pick this back up.
Way to go.
Well, we were just chatting away, so I just
true
lost track there.
We're talking about the wonderful world of EV.
Yeah.
So yeah, we drove down 600 miles from Burlington, Vermont down to Virginia Beach, and you don't see anything. Like, if you got an EV in Virginia Beach, for example, which is a population of 600,000 people, and they have 1 million tourists that come through there every year.
I'm surprised they don't.
And there's not a lot. Plenty of gas stations.
Yeah, that's surprising. That's surprising. I know not too far from here, and heck, this is West Virginia, but it is off 81. There's a huge Tesla charging place. It's right beside a big Sheetz, which is like a convenience store. I'm sure you guys know, but for other people that don't know, sort of like a Wawa or a Royal Farms.
Yeah.
Huge, dude. I think it's like 20 or 30 Tesla charging stations. It's insane.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone there, but well, Alex, what were you saying about California or something? Like a lot of the charging stations don't even operate properly and pieces are broken, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So Stanford, I think, did a physical assessment of I think 100% of the public charging stations that were around in the state of California, and they found that a third of them were broken from people, just jabbing them in there and breaking them, or the plugs getting weathered. There's a lot of things to figure out we can move 330 million people to
Yeah.
non-dinosaur burning transportation.
Well, Damon, we had you on what, about a year and a half, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2
God,
years
hard to
ago.
believe we've been doing it. Hard to believe it's been that long. I swear it hasn't. Yeah. So, but for we know who you are, but for anyone else out there, maybe they never catch you the first time. Give us a little quick update on what you do, and maybe some updates on what you have been doing.
All right, so I am Damon Lester, president of the National Association of Minority Automobile Dealers, and also the dealer principal of Nissan of Bowie. So since the past time
Oh,
you saw
wow.
me, yeah, man, I purchased this Nissan store here in Bowie. So
Good for
I've been in
you.
the store for,
Congratulations.
thank you, a
Yeah,
little over a
that's
year.
awesome, man.
Thanks. And
We
so,
part of the younger organization here. We've got a Nissan. We've got the Frederick Nissan dealership.
okay.
Yeah. It's not
So
too
y'all
far.
competition now.
Nah,
Nah,
we're
it's
all
too far
family.
away. Yeah.
Competition is the other OEM. So
How is Nissan doing, if you don't mind me asking? Because I used the GM at the Nissan store. I haven't spoke to him for a while, and so I don't know what the update is. But how's Nissan doing with everything?
yeah, Nissan is doing very well. I mean, challenged with inventory issues like every other OEM, but overall, product is new, and the life cycle of the product is going to be more frequent than in previous years, and so leadership is awesome. And so I think Nissan is really in a good place and on an upward trajectory than in previous years. So no, I'm very pleased to be part of the Nissan family, and we're doing pretty well.
Excellent. Yeah,
And you
I've
know,
always liked their cars. We've
Yeah.
actually had quite a few Nissans. I think two, Pathfinder, and I think we had an Altima. Who hasn't had an Altima at some point, right?
I know
that used to
people,
be
people
the
love
car
the
to
Ultimate.
lease.
Yeah, people love the
Yeah,
Ultimate in the Bose system. I mean, that's like the
yeah,
most frequent thing you hear is about the radio. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, Damon, last time you were on, we were a few months into COVID. You know, it was just after quarantines and everything had really let up, and stimulus checks had gone out, and remote work had really been happening. And you brought to our attention two things at that time that were quite shocking. One, the use of the stimulus checks for buying cars. In hindsight, somebody's probably listening saying, "Yeah, duh." But at that time, it was like, okay, the amount of that was going on was surprising, but also the realization that the lenders could not verify insurance or verify employment. So like everyone was getting approved for a loan at the same time. What have you seen since then?
I think we've seen a lot of well-known people get in trouble for misuse of funds or mismanagement of funds, and it's just definitely been interesting back to think back then on those challenges just at that finite level of purchasing a car. For looking at it now, what you're finding out, people got millions and millions of dollars of that money, and I mean, they were using it. So very interesting. Very interesting.
I
But now,
know from what I gathered, dealerships got pretty well taken care of if they did all the right things.
yeah, my understanding, a lot of dealers did fare out well to level the playing field for them, as pretty much a majority of all of the states were shut down, but dealerships were open as essential businesses, particularly for the service department. So
Yeah.
that definitely, we helped advocate to keep the stores open, but that definitely did help. Along with PPP, did help dealers, stay afloat and keep people employed during that time. So I think for our industry, um, it was used for those purposes that for which it was intended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, not a
Agreed.
lot of. Hopefully, we don't hear too many stories coming from the car business. They keep it all in the banking industry.
Yeah, we would have heard it already if it was anything dealing with our industry. So, but yeah, I think most of the dealers that use it, they use it to keep people employed and keep those doors open so it works.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Well,
you were
you
just at ASOTU, the conference.
Yes.
I wanted to go, but I wasn't able to go. It fell on my anniversary weekend. Um, how was it? The lineup looked great. Speaker lineup. The topics looked fantastic. I think that was their first one ever. Maybe they had sort of a smaller one at one other time. Um, but to see, a conference sort of come out of the shadows like that and just have that type of notoriety and people speaking for him, I was really pleased and impressed with it. How'd it go on your front?
Man, Automotive State of the Union and the conference of SotoCon was an awesome event this week. It took place Monday and Tuesday of this past week, and the amount of speakers and also the quality of speakers were second to none when you look at traditional type automotive conferences, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what this provided people or all the attendees were relevant topics, not necessarily preaching to the choir by way of PowerPoints. That's what we're always typically accustomed to. But it was an exchange of dialogue from various pockets of our industry with different people who are key speakers, key people and notary people in our area in this
Mm-hmm.
industry that provided just dropping gems on best practices and how this environment that we're now going into and that we're in now, what dealers need to be prepared for, what dealers need to look for, and also just some best practices on why, and that the sky may be falling, but really it's not. It's just it's an issue of dealers being able to adapt and overcome and continue to be the resilient entrepreneurs that we are.
I haven't been to a conference in probably pushing over 3 years. Heck, maybe even four. Whereas there was a day I'd attended almost every single conference, spoke at quite a few, Digital Dealer, DSES, um, quite a few of Brian Pash's conferences. Um, I just got to a point where it was a lot of the same information. And after being in the industry for 20 plus years, I sort of got burned out. And I was like, all right, every time I come to one of these, I'm not really, unless they had some motivational speaker, I always appreciate those. But I wasn't getting anything from the conferences anymore. Uh, what were some of your biggest key walkaways? I think if I would go now, it probably would be a good refresher, maybe regenerate myself around some of the different topics.
Right.
But I also think because so many things have changed just in the past 2 years, uh, that I could probably walk away with some good knowledge. What were some of the maybe top two or three things that really stuck out for you?
I think the panel that I sat on with Alex Vetter from Cars.com, as well as the head of Subaru, Tom Dahl, we touched about the evolution of the industry and just what really matters and what there needs to be more OEM dealer involvement from a partnership standpoint or bonding standpoint as partners versus this tension that you're starting to see or feeling from our industry from OEM to dealers. And so when you look at this whole landscape and over the past 2 years since the last time we spoke, we the evolution of Tesla has become more and more prevalent out here as the word or the disruptor in our industry, in addition to the Carvanas and the rooms of the world. But we have to make sure that our footprint is our footprint, which is traditional as dealers, and that relationships and interpersonal, person to person relationships do matter, and they matter from how our business was started, and it will continue to matter as our business continues to evolve. It's okay for us to add additional layers of direct retailing models to provide opportunities for consumers to purchase to make it convenient for them, but also it's very important for customers to be able to pick up the phone, send a text, and actually come into a store and touch and feel and talk to someone. And so those grassroots do matter. And what we
Mhm.
talked about is just reinforcing that although our industry is changing, grassroots will always stay the same. But we have to be able to meet people for where they are and what they want, and being able to adapt and provide those options. And so, diversification works. Being able to be open minded works. And what COVID has taught us during the shutdowns is that we can actually do things remotely from soup to nuts and deliver a vehicle to a customer, no different than the customer coming in the showroom and purchasing a vehicle as well. And so we have the best of both worlds, and we just need to really celebrate and tell our own story. And we don't do a good job. We as an industry, particularly on the dealership side, we don't tell our story on the value that we bring to the community and to consumers.
No, that's
That's
true.
very true. Very true. You mentioned the tension, and I see what you're saying. Mercedes, hasn't been quite that bad, but there's definitely you can feel a little bit of tension just between, more like what the hell's going on.
You mean like
Um,
every manufacturer that isn't Mercedes?
what do you think? What's causing the tension? Do you think it's intentional tension, or do you think if I had with some of the manufacturers, it just seems like maybe they're not quite sure how to move, which of course that translates down to the dealerships that they don't know what they're doing. Then that tension starts to build. It also seems the whole EV market. It seems like someone at Ford, not to single out Ford, but I will. Seems as if there's a lot of tension between the dealerships and Ford because they don't know what's going on. The push for the EV
Push
seems
for
like
inventory.
push for
Period.
inventory, maybe some different, yeah, seeing if they can skirt some of the different laws and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
I think the tension is coming from a lack of transparency,
Mhm.
and the tension comes from a lack of communication, and the tension is coming from the news media, the new news articles that we read. We hear things what's going over in Europe, how that's going to affect us over here, how EVs are now becoming more popular, and now no one's been able to really articulate the why. Why are
Mhm.
we in this environment that we're in? And I think some OEMs do a better job than others with communicating with the dealers in the spirit of partnership, right? Dealers
Mhm.
are your franchisee. And and I think if that level of discussion would take place, it would remove a lot of tension. And instead what you're hearing when you speak of Ford is that when people hear the word that starts with the T and that that manufacturer or retailer, people get tense because they don't have retail, they don't have dealers,
Mhm.
they don't have a dealer body. And so when you hear that word as a purchasing person that has a franchise dealing with an OEM, you worry like, oh my goodness, you're going to do what they do because you think that that's better.
Yeah,
And I think over the past 2 years, you've seen that brand or that maker gather a significant amount of market share for that segment of electric vehicles when there was zero competition. As we in our industry continue to bring more brands and become more and more diverse with our EV models, you're going to see that market share start to dwindle. And
Mhm.
and and so we can play that game as well. We may not have were leaders in it initially, such as he was, and capitalized off of it for the past 2 years. But also that vehicle was not the primary vehicle of choice for any family. It's their second or third vehicle in the driveway.
very
And,
true.
and I think we need to be transparent and tell the truth that that car is an expensive vehicle that was that it's over 60 grand. And so we need to really tell our side of the story that we have vehicles that provide people transportation to work for play or for fun or to work, whatever the case may be, with a variety of price points, with a variety of options that people are able to choose from, no matter what OEM, make, brand, or model. And so we provide options and variations of product and affordability of product, depending on the consumer's needs. And so what we're hearing and what we're seeing is this push pull mentality thing of like, what are you going to do to me, or how you're doing this to me? Where on the policy side, it's law. We just heard California announce 2035 100% EV. Last year, the U.S. Passed a bill at 51% by 2030. So we have to go to this route or some mixture thereof, depending on the OEM. And so we don't do a good job of explaining why we're going this fast or pushing. But the OEM,
There's a lot of conspiracy theories around why we're pushing so.
yeah, yeah,
But again, it could be due to the lack of transparency.
lack of transparency. And so I think there needs to be, um, instead of talking to, there needs to be have a conversation. And that dialogue will have to go back and forth with all manufacturers with their representative dealer body, because you go to dealer meetings, you hear them talk to you, similar to the meeting you just mentioned with Ford. You hear a lot of, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. You're going to do this, and you better do that. And you got to put this significant amount of investment in. We're on the dealer side. They need to understand the why. And if I do all of this, what guarantees do I get? And based on that investment. And so I think there's just a lot of questions. I don't know much all about besides what I read about the Ford meeting, but there just needs to be some people getting in a room, and it needs to be representative. And I would say kind of outside the dealer council, I think, or representative of the dealer council in attendance, that they have to come together, have a discussion, a business discussion, to understand where both sides are coming from and understand why there's this fear or the lack of communication or transparency. And I think once you have that, I think we will see a lot less tension and a lot more unity with amongst your represented respective brands. I think Nissan has done a really good job with being transparent on inventory allocation. How do you get it? Who gets what and who gets more? And I would say with NAMAD, with the things that we've asked every manufacturer was, how do you, if I sell my lot to zero, why does the guy down the street get more?
Yeah.
No one really tells that story or answering why. And so we all look at somebody else and say, well, hey, he got a better car than me, but I make the same amount of money. We have this, competitiveness naturally that we have as people, that we want to know why does he get more than me?
What's
When I
the response to NAMAD on that one?
You know what? A lot of people don't know, oddly enough, but I will speak. Some do a better job with explaining the allocation formula than others, um, and it's all based on how you've turned, right? And so now every dealer, no matter what brand, we all need to know that we have to turn as soon as we get it. And the way that you turn, and as soon as you get it, that means that you will be getting more in the near future. And so once you understand that, versus holding on for getting the more gross on the end, because we were holding on to things because there's such a finite number out there, that we now know that we have to get rid of these cars. And so it's been a mentality shift, I think, over the past year and a half. But ultimately, dealers across the country want to know why and how can I get more cars. And there is a finite number of cars that are available, and there's just that whole transparency talk needed to take place earlier than later, I think, because it was just such animosity amongst your fellow dealer body on how does he down the street get more and I only have one. And ultimately, it just, everything starts and stops with talking. You're in a relationship, and we're in a relationship with our OEM, and there's no need to have tension or fighting if you have a good communication channel.
So the $5,000 addendum.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would also think that the manufacturer probably swimming too, because they might not know exactly what's going on, how they're going to deal with some of the different situations, especially when it comes to EVs. Um, I know with Benz, they had a couple different cars slated, new EVs, and then they went away. They weren't coming out. And then last week, there was another announcement. All of a sudden, there's 4 new ones coming out, and I'm sure they're in a situation where they're trying to figure out. All right, well, how can it's hard to be transparent with the dealership if they're not even quite sure uh, what exactly is going on, how they're going to get the cars made and all that good stuff.
Well,
So,
just saying that would be a good step in the transparency direction.
well, that's true too. That's
Yeah,
true.
but on to your point, they too look at the expense side of it. To
Mm-hmm.
produce these vehicles is a huge amount of expense in comparison to ICE vehicles. To produce these vehicles and think you can be competitive with the current direct retailers that are here, and then also project to be competitive with these other retailers, direct retailers that are coming into the U.S. to market their cars, is a whole nother level of expense structure that they don't have that we do as an industry here in the US. And so, yeah, we have to understand it. I'm blessed to be able to understand both sides of it. But to your point, Alex, yeah, if you just talk and say, hey, help me help you, it will you will have more people fighting and walking in concert with each other.
Yeah, that's definitely the theme of Damon's Refresh Friday in 2022. That's a good one too.
What else? Talked about the tension. What else did you walk away from the ASOTU?
Um, for the level of and the amount of facilities that dealers have, what's required of them going forward to become EV ready, um, and the evolution of what facilities should look like. And all OEMs aren't created equal. Some OEMs still say, go big, go big, go big. We want all of this. But others say, hey, we don't care about, we want you to have a smaller footprint with a bigger volume on service. And at the end of the day, the unifying message was customers matter. And we have to pay attention to our customers. We have to make sure that we continue to bring loyalty to our customer base, and making sure that we are able to take care of the customers based on their convenience, not what's convenient for us as dealers or retailers. And so the conference in and of itself was not a traditional, here's my PowerPoint. It was a discussion on best practices. How do we get better and how do we make this industry better by telling our story? And that's probably like the best way I can wrap up a SodaCon.
That's good. More of a discussion than a presentation.
Yep.
That's refreshing.
It's different. And sometimes presentations are dated because
Oh no.
as one that runs the conference, like you gotta wait, you gotta turn them in early, you gotta review them, you gotta do all of these things. But when you're able to just have dialogue with industry experts, you're going to be able to have conversations about current events trickled in with the presentation on best practices on the how and the what's and the how and the whys. And so they provided a really good 360 different viewpoint on how conferences are run, and no one had to wear a suit, so it removed all of that. Just if you think about it, that's the part that's you come in, you're not really relaxed. In conferences, we're walking on crazy floors, and I feel bad for women. They have to wear heels and walk on these crazy floors in convention centers throughout the country. It's to be able to be comfortable. Your productivity and your awareness it seems to be a lot more relaxed, but also focused at the same time. So I think that
I don't,
also would play.
I don't know. I see what some of these kids wear whenever they're wearing their relaxing wear.
But
Sweatpants, jogger,
but
hoodie.
now you can wear a pair of jeans and a blazer and sneakers, and you're good. That's
Yeah.
the new business attire, and so I would say that's one of the things that came out of COVID, and no one really wants to wear a tie anymore. You wear a jacket and jeans, and and it removed all of that formality out of there because we were all looking at each other, staring at each other in the mirror on our screens all day. So, it definitely shows the transformation of how the past 2 years has made our industry move forward.
So, so what happened to the old slogan? How's that going to evolve the dress for success?
I've done a couple speaking engagements to colleges, and I touch on it. I show them what they can and cannot wear, but it
Oh
always
yeah,
it all drives down to what that company culture is. And these
sure.
young men and ladies got to pay attention to what that culture is as they enter that workforce. And it's okay. They better ask a question on if what's okay. Some people, some companies still wear tie, suit, shoes. Some people have a little more relaxed, you can wear sneakers, but it all depends on the corporate culture.
Yep.
Sure does.
Well, Damon, we know you were on a truncated schedule today. We appreciate you finding time to meet with us and celebrate your 2-year anniversary of Refresh Friday.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this is got to keep this more quicker rotation though. No more 2 years. We'll do it every year.
And
Deal.
congratulations on the dealership, man. Next time I'm in Bowie area, I'll have to slide by.
Please check me out, please. Yep.
Sure will, man.
Lester better do that next, or Damon better do that the next time he's at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, I got it. Well, when I come up there towards the outlets, I'll come see you, Jeff.
Sounds great, man. Well, we always appreciate you jumping on with us.
Oh man, likewise. Thank you for the opportunity. Good seeing you.
All right, I'll
Thank
see you.
you. See everyone next Friday.
All right.